Yes.
Well, there's an autumn feel to things, especially in the eastern part of the United States, with lows on fronts moving up the East Coast, which is what we had today. And we may actually have the potential for a subtropical system of some sort at the end of the week, which we're going to talk about. Outside chance it might even become a full-fledged tropical system. We shall see. Long way to get there, but we will take you there first class right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Monday, the 18th of September, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, Joe, in southwest Suffolk County. You know that they got mulch, topsoil, and sand, and they even have salt already for the upcoming winter. So mark it down because it ain't going to be like last winter. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number, and you cannot possibly find better prices anywhere the website is.
OmniTrueValue.com.
Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you do decide to make a purchase on the Tempest website, you should use the coupon code I want a weather station. Because do you know what they get, Joe, if you use the coupon code I want a weather station?
Well, let me take a wild guess now. This is just off the top of my head. It'd be really nice if by saying that they gave you 10% off.
No, Joe, they're not giving you 10% off. They're going to give you $40 off for the next,
Really?
yes, for the next week. So mark it down. It gets more than 10%. It's like 15%. So yeah, just for the next week, a special that they're doing. So I am passing along the information to our audience tonight, which is on the chat board and lurking in the background. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. I got a feeling we'll be on Friday, maybe even Saturday this week. We'll see. In which case, we'll let you know and we'll move the schedule around. So anyway, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hey, turn on your notifications. You'll never miss a show. And if you do like tonight's show, and we hope you do, deep down inside, we both hope you do hit the like button because we love it when we go over 100 likes. It just makes us feel like we're accomplishing something.
Okay.
All right.
That would be nice.
Joe, this is the time of year where we usually start to say who gets down to what temperature level first. You in Putnam Valley, New York, or me in Blairsville, Georgia, in the North Georgia mountains. So I will ask you, Joe Rayo, have you been under 50 yet for a low?
No, I think that the coolest we have been in recent days or even recent weeks is 52. That was a few nights ago. I am, however, considering, Joe, that not tonight, but possibly tomorrow night or Wednesday morning, that we might very well drop below 50. And in fact, there may be some locations not too far from here, the sheltered rural areas of the Hudson Valley, that could get all the way down as low as 45 or even 44 degrees.
All right.
It's going to turn quite chilly here. Not necessarily tonight, but tomorrow night, most definitely.
Well, this annual competition that you and I have begins today, and I was 49 this morning, so I already won the first level. So there. 49 today. I don't know what the high was, but I don't think it got much above low 70s. If it did, it was very crisp this morning. In fact, I still have, because I think, hold on, let me see. It is right now 62. So I'm already dropping like a rock. Got to 77 on the back thermometer, but not sure if that's in a good spot to record it. But it did make mid 70s today, I would imagine. But yeah, 62 at right now. So one of the things that crossed my mind today was the fact that and by the way, just to give some credit. charm school, our favorite charm school graduate, man who graduated first in his class in charm school, Dave Tolerus, pointed out that this weather system today, the way it evolved, the way it, basically a cold front with a wave on it that came up the coast, and the system at the end of the week was a rather different way of starting what is soon to be the autumn season. This is more typical of autumns where you start to see this sort of action, and he pointed out that last year you really didn't see anything like this until we got sometime later in the month of November. So at least from what we see right now, this autumn that astronomically gets underway on Thursday, the 21st?
Oh no, I believe it's going to be Saturday, the 23rd.
Really, all the way to Saturday.
I
Well,
believe so. Yeah.
um, this autumn, at least from what I'm seeing, Joe, we don't have an extension of summer going on in the long range. So we are starting this fall a bit differently than what we've had in past years.
Craig Carlberg, thank you very much on the chat board. Saturday, 2:49 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time is the occurrence of the autumnal equinox. So, and I might also point out something interesting that here in the tri-state area, today was the last day for a while that we're going to have sunset at or after 7 o'clock. In fact, tomorrow night, Joe, sunset will come before 7 o'clock at 6:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So the days are really starting to shorten up now, and the evenings are getting quite dark all of a sudden.
Yeah, for me it's the opposite though. For me it's the mornings that because I'm about less than 100 miles away from the central time zone.
You really should
Uh,
be in the central time zone. I don't understand why it is that you're in the eastern time zone, but yeah, I understand very much what you're going through in the
it
morning.
keeps Alabama is just sort of like, it's the Alabama state line. So as soon as you cross it, you're in Central Time. Yeah, but
Right.
I'm so close to it. So my sunsets, for example, when we get to the middle of June, when your sunsets are around 8:30, mine are actually after 9 o'clock. My sunrise now, I believe, is after 7 o'clock because it's dark here, and in fact, because of the mountains that I'm surrounded by, uh, I really don't even see any sunlight until about 8:30, 9 a.m. at the earliest.
Wow.
So, anyhow, I thought it was an interesting. It looks pretty interesting to me for the end of the week. We've got this troughing that's going to be from Iowa to the southeast coast, and an upper low is going to form there, and you've got this big high that's going by to the north. So it does look like some kind of inverted trough with a low on it is going to develop maybe as early as late Thursday. I think that actually has a real chance of becoming a subtropical system with a name attached to it. Also, because we have another trough that's going to be digging behind it, that whether it gets a name or not, I don't think matters too much. I think but that moisture is going to wind up, I think, going up the coast, and it could make for a rather lousy weekend in the mid-Atlantic states and up into parts of at least the southern parts of the Northeast, in my never to be humble opinion.
Well, we'll see. Certainly, the models did not do very well with this system, at least in terms of, for me, we were nowhere in the immediate tri-state area was under any kind of situation in regard to possible flooding. In fact, WPC didn't even have us in marginal risk for possible flooding, and yet I ended up getting not one but two shots of precipitation. The second shot, Joe, which came in around 4 or 5 o'clock, was incredible. I mean, the rain really was pounding down for a while. And in the overview of things, whereas, there was thought that, we might get an inch, maybe the La Plumes was suggesting maybe as much as an inch and a half. And I said, wow, an inch and a half? Really? We're going to get that much? 2.66 inches of rain today, Joe. 2.66.
Nice. Well, you know what, Joe? There's some areas east of you that aren't done. I mean, I'm going to bring up the radar, And
Places north and east.
yes,
This is like one area of moderate to heavy rain that came through my zone from the south has now pushed on up toward the Poughkeepsie Kingston area. And you could see on the radar there that you just put on the screen here, there it is. The first shot, which we got early in the day, is now over eastern Massachusetts and Cape Cod. Notice there's a wedge of nothing, a wedge of relatively dry conditions. And then as you move just to the west of the Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York border, just to the west of that, that's where it's still raining. And in fact, there's that one little blob that passed over me of yellow and maybe a little area of orange there, which brought heavy duty rain, 4, 5, 6 o'clock this evening. Now that's finally lifting out and away to the north. And I suspect that after, well, let's see, it's coming up on 10 minutes to 8. So maybe by 9 o'clock, we'll finally be over, said and done with the rain. And then after that, we've got a number of beautiful days coming up: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, until we get the next problematic or the next potential headache coming our way for the upcoming weekend, as you've been alluding to.
yeah, it looks like some of those heavier downpours are skimming northwest Suffolk County right now and moving eastward. And western Connecticut, I mean, it's just lying actually from westernmost Massachusetts near the New York state line, just going straight down south to just west of Bridgeport. There's what looks like a bit of a line there. Might even be a few rumbles of thunder in the mix. And I see the area that you talk about north of Poughkeepsie. And, the other area that's gotten hit today to an extent is southeastern New England, because they've been going at this with the rain pretty much all day today. I mean, and they still have some heavy rains going on around and west of Boston and also over Cape Cod. There's some moderate rains up in western Maine and eastern New Hampshire. But all of this is going to move along. Still some scattered showers. The upper trough here is lagging, and I think this is part of the problem. You get the front that's already through, and then you get the upper trough that is sort of doing its own thing, responding to whatever dynamics are still around. And we're seeing some showers and even some thunderstorms up the St. Lawrence River Valley and parts of north central New York, and also parts of western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. A couple little patches there into West Virginia. Nothing in the southeast. It was a really pretty day here in Georgia. Lots of sunshine, low humidity. Got some showers, a couple of thunderstorms in southeast Florida. No warnings are up, by the way. I don't have any flash flood warnings. We don't have any severe weather warnings. Out in the west, we've got some scattered showers and storms with the odd severe thunderstorm warning here and the odd flash flood warning there. Most of that is on the patchy side, kind of sliding out to the east. So you're right. Once this all pulls out, great weather tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and then might last through at least part of Friday before any clouds come in. Maybe all day. Might be able to squeeze in one more day on Friday. And by the way, look at the surface map. There's a wave at right along 40 and about 71.5-ish. And it's got two closed isobars around it. And then to the west, we've got they're drawing what looks like a weakening cold front in central New York, eastern PA, down into central Virginia.
Yeah, this is what this is looking like, Joe. Now that we, get past this evening, we're getting into a period where we're going to be lulled into the false sense of security that wonderful long-term autumn weather is here. Or late summer weather is here from Tuesday through Friday, and then all of a sudden nature is going to turn the other cheek and say, "You think so?" And the big question is, what exactly and precisely is going to be coming our way for the upcoming weekend? Now, we were discussing off air the fact that our old friend, the European, which was promoting this to a degree, a possible coastal system or tropical system for parts of the eastern United States, suddenly, at least for the immediate tri-state area, is saying like, oh, wait a minute, it's pushing to the south. It's not going to, don't worry about it. It's not going to touch you. Don't. It's no big deal. But meanwhile, all the other models, the GFS, the Canadian, they're all saying this doesn't look all that great for the upcoming weekend. So we're still about 5-6 days out. Lots of puzzle pieces to put together, and we'll see. Certainly by later in the week, we'll have a much better handle as to exactly or precisely what is going to be hitting us for this upcoming weekend.
Well, I mean, we should note that the GFS last week with Lee had it 198 hours out going into Western Nova Scotia,
Right.
and never really missed a beat. Kind of wobbled here and there, but for the most part, it just kind of zeroed in on that spot. And the other models were, especially the European, was showing it to be way out offshore and way to the south, and gradually it came back. I just don't, I like the idea of the trend being your friend, and that includes which weather models seem to be doing well. When you figure that part out, you kind of stick with them, and it should be noted too. I mean, the Canadian and the GFS and the Icon are all pretty much on the same page. The Europeans just really has a flatter low, sort of a low with an inverted trough, and it doesn't really do anything with it. It just sort of lays there. So look, you're right. We've got 5 or 6 days. I would suspect that the European, which up until this afternoon was kind of on board with the idea, backed off today. I got a sense that it may come back during the overnight hours. We shall see. Meanwhile, on the satellite loop, you can see all the clouds and moisture in the eastern part of the United States. You can also see where all the nice weather is, because most of the country today really enjoying some nice weather. You got the clouds that are back in Colorado and Utah and New Mexico. We showed you the showers that were there on the radar. So for now, there's nothing really crazy going on here this week, other than what's happening in the Northeast with this rain that happened today. The Storm Prediction Center, which I don't know, every time they update their page, I kind of lose it and I have to refresh. So for tonight, obviously there's going to be nothing in the eastern part of the United States. For tonight, we've got a marginal risk up in northwest Texas, and that's about it. Tomorrow, we have a slight risk being indicated for parts of north central Texas and much of central and eastern Oklahoma. But look at the East Coast. I mean, you got to go down to central Florida before you run into any kind of scattered convection. And back through much of the Ohio and Tennessee Valley and the Gulf states, no thunderstorms in the forecast there. Day 3, Wednesday into Thursday, pretty much the same deal. Maine to North Florida, west to southeast Louisiana, northward to just about Chicago. If you're in that box that I just described, nothing but a marginal risk for north central Texas, Oklahoma, except the Panhandle, and southeastern Kansas.
Well, I point out that today we did not have any thunderstorm activity. Now, the interesting thing about the downburst, not the downburst, but the burst of precipitation we had 4, 5, 6 o'clock today, rain came down very heavily. I half expected to hear a rumble of thunder or see a few flashes of lightning. Never did get into that. So it was just pure heavy-duty rain that came on down. They did have the chance for some convective activity east of here, well east of here, and that may very well have happened. But nothing really significant in terms of convection, again, in the immediate New York City metropolitan area with today's heavy-duty rain. And, yeah, if we do get some kind of a system this weekend, one would expect, especially if it's an intense system or intensifying system, that we will be seeing some of that activity. But again, we'll have to just play it by ear and see how things will pan out.
David Carter on the chat board saying just started raining heavily in Danbury in southwest Connecticut about 25 minutes ago. So they're getting into that line we showed on the radar. David,
I wonder if Dennis Cassia, who is in Monroe, Connecticut, which is in southwestern Connecticut, because it looked like on your radar, Joe, it looked like that line of heavy duty rain and significant precipitation was moving into his zone too. So, Dennis, if you're on the chat board, is it raining right now, or is it raining heavily
I don't
where you are
I
right
don't
now?
I don't see Mr. Cassia at the moment.
I saw him earlier, but
No. I do see, Joe, that David Fuller hit the super chat tip jar, wanting us to make it tropical as far as that system off the southeast coast. That we don't do that, David. That's we let the Hurricane Center do that job. Although we might hint at what they should do. Can you make it tropical if it's going to hit? I hate the damp, cold weather. Tropical humidity is best. Well,
no,
everybody has their
no.
taste.
I'm sorry.
And that is
I'm sorry to
that
interrupt you. I'm
that
sorry to interrupt you, but this really gets me angry. If there's one thing that we have had, here comes a Joe Rayo rant, folks. If there's one thing that we've had far too much of,
Well, I'm going to put you full screen for this. Go on. I'm sorry.
far too much this summer has been humidity, warm, oppressive humidity. And I mean, Joe, I said this more than a few times. My entire property looks like a jungle.
Hmm.
We have not really had any protracted spell of hot weather, but the humidity has been ongoing since June. And that humidity, plus days like today, when we get these 1 inches and 2 inches and 3 inches here and there from time to time. I mean, like, my God, are you saying that you really want this to continue?
I don't know. I don't know how you can like it. Look, it gets humid down here, but it actually is, and I've said this many times. Yeah, it's humid down in the south, but it's a lot different than the humidity where in the northeast, where the air just literally doesn't move. I didn't have nights where the lows were didn't get below 80. So, that didn't happen here. So yeah, I don't know how you can I don't know how you can like it in an urbanized area. To me, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Uh,
happy that you agreed with me, Joe.
oh, Joe, you and I, we're always on the same page. We might be reading different books, but we're always on the same page. Bogies bees, Joe. Bogies bees. He's thinking about the winter and he hits the tip jar. Thank you, Bogies bees. I'll tell you right now, just give everybody a heads up. There's a couple of people have asked me, not now, but when we get a little deeper into the month of October, I'm going to try to get a night where all the big high-level thinkers of the long range together in one place here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So when I have something concrete to tell you, I'll let you know. But I am going to be working on this a show where we can, we've done it every year since we've been together. So I don't know why this year is going to be any different. But I'm going to try to get a couple of real classy people on the show so we could talk about what they could tell us what they think about the upcoming winter. And then we could watch it go completely opposite. But thank you, Bogies Bees, for hitting the tip jar. 63 likes so far, Mr. Rayo. So we need 37 more to get to 100. So why don't we roll along here? I want to show you what WPC is doing. Oh, Brandon Doherty just hit Super Chat, Joe, because he liked your rant.
People I don't know what it is, but people all of a sudden, when I start to rant like I just did, they start bringing the tip jar. And I don't do this for that. I just do that because somebody touched the nerve when they said, "Well, I want more of the humid weather."
Yeah. Well, Sal Blandino was on the chat board, and you know how he touches my nerves.
Yes.
But he's not. But he disappeared before. He always does that. He'll come on before because I always open up the chat board. I actually put the show up yesterday evening. So the chat board was open all last night, all through this morning. So folks could jump on early and have conversations if they like, and some folks do. But he seems to always come on before the show, and then I don't know, he's got something going on every night at 7:35 p.m. at least Sunday through Thursdays anyway. WPC, Joe, this is a hint at least of what's going through their minds. So this is from 8 o'clock tonight. So there's probably not much since they really didn't hit the home run today with the rain that's going on this evening. We'll X this out and just think that most of what you see here especially from Long Island and New York City south, is a clean number, and the only precip event between now and next Monday is this potential subtropical low that may develop off the Florida coast and nose its way up the eastern seaboard in some fashion. They're showing 2 to 3 inch rainfalls reaching to just south of the south shore of Long Island, central New Jersey. North of there, 1.5 to 2 inches going up to Poughkeepsie with the 1.5 inch, and kind of hugging the coast there with heavier rains just off eastern North Carolina of 5 inches or more. Heavier rains are just offshore, so they seem to have, they seem to be looking at what's showing up on the models, and maybe thinking that this could be a big rainmaker, which I think it could be.
Well, if it's a tropical system, if it has tropical moisture associated with it, why not? It certainly can do the job and bring quite a bit of rain into any given area that it affects. So something to watch. It'll be interesting to see in the days to come whether or not the National Hurricane Center puts one of those little X's, either orange or yellow or red, somewhere along the southeast.
They already have. They did this morning.
I didn't see
it's
that.
not on the 2-day. It's on the 7-day. Because nothing's going to happen there until probably not until Thursday. So there was no reason for it. In fact, why don't we just check it? Because they've just sent out their update. I will check it for you.
I see Nigel, but
yes, which is
it's not going to really bother anybody. That maybe bring some rough seas to Bermuda. But what else is new if you live in Bermuda?
Right. So I imagine they didn't change it. Well, Nigel's at 28 and 52.2, 80-mile-an-hour winds, forecast to strengthen a bit more, and forecast to become post-tropical in 96 hours. So it's not, even before it was a hurricane, they were talking about it becoming ex-tropical. Post-tropical. So they have 2 areas that they're indicating on their 7-day. The first one is a wave that's coming off the African coast now, or tomorrow, and they have a 70% probability that this will become a tropical depression late this week or this weekend as it moves across the tropical Atlantic. Maybe this will be another one that recurves. And then they have in yellow circled the southeast coast, including the Florida east coast and back into the northernmost Bahamas, 30%. This system could acquire some subtropical characteristics this weekend if it remains offshore, and that's going to be critical, of course, while it moves generally northward. So the Hurricane Center does have something on this. By the way, I just want to acknowledge Helen Bertona hitting super chat saying she's done, Joe, with the jungle weather, and I get that. Leon Probitsky hitting super chat, hitting the tip jar, and Trish Sparacchio wishing us a good week. 3 tip jar hits, 3 additional tip jar hits, and we're up to 84 likes, which is nice. So why don't we look at the upper air, shall we?
Surely.
So we've got a deep trough. There's a cutoff low sitting over Lake Ontario with a north-south trough down in the Carolinas, which is probably the reason why there's this, this sort of western edge of downpours and whatever else that you experienced this evening. In fact, there's just rolling it back to this morning. There's a sharp trough from West Virginia to South Carolina, going negatively tilted, and that is now passing through. So there's your mechanism, Joe, with regards to what's going on this evening. Well, that upper trough's going to pull away, and we've got a trough, a deep upper low and trough dropping down in the Pacific Northwest. You see it there on Wednesday. There's troughing in Missouri and Iowa, and it extends to the southeast coast. And we're into Thursday afternoon here, and you'll notice that there is a upper low that suddenly forms off the, oh, come on, my finger's not working right, so I'll have to use the pencil there. There's an upper low that forms there off the southeast coast, and the trough I'm referring to is just sort of like this. It extends from southern Minnesota to the northern Bahamas. You got this big animal here in the western part of the United States that probably is going to bring some snow to some spots in the northern Rockies. Well, When we move forward, what happens is that the upper low that's off the southeast coast is better defined. Moving into Friday and Friday night, you can see it there. It's almost 3 contours closed, just south of Charleston, and still southeast of Charleston by early Saturday morning. In the west, you've got you've got this new this trough that extends from the western trough back northwestward to Lake Winnipeg. That's coming down, and depending on how that reacts, which is to form a wrapped up upper low in Minnesota, it would, you certainly could make the case that the upper low in off the South Carolina coast gets dragged almost straight northward around it. So that's where this lies in terms of what the mechanics are. The question, Joe, is going to be this is going to form relatively quickly. The ocean water temperatures off the southeast coast of the United States and off the east coast of Florida are very warm because they were outside the tracks of Franklin and Lee. So the upwelling there didn't really cause a lot of let's call it damage to the water temperatures. Plus the Gulf Stream is still pretty active. So this thing is going to be forming pretty much right on the Gulf Stream. And the question will be, does it develop quickly enough, and does it transition to a tropical-like system, either subtropical or totally tropical? And that's going to be, it's going to have a short window to do it in, but it is possible. And if we look at the GFS, for example, on this on today's runs, you can see the low here. The surface low Thursday evening is already showing a closed circulation. And it actually forms it very, very quickly, drops the pressure from 1,006 to a 997 in roughly about 24 hours or so, as the low moves north-northwest to near Wilmington, Myrtle Beach. That would be either a subtropical or tropical storm, if in my opinion. And then what happens is that the surface low goes up the Appalachians, but the rain breaks away and moves northward. There's a pretty solid band of heavy rain that moves up the coast during the day on Saturday and into Saturday night. And then the leftovers of the low, the remnant low, moves through on Sunday with a few showers. So the GFS has been really consistent with this. The Canadian has been also matched up pretty well. The icon to me was pretty interesting today, Joe, because it's got a track. It's got the same idea, but it's got a bit more of an offshore track. So it actually takes the surface low on the icon late this afternoon into easternmost North Carolina, almost right over Hatteras by Saturday afternoon. And the other thing we also need to look at with this is the fact that you are going to have higher pressures to the north. So there is going to be a bit of a gradient that's going to set up from, at least initially, Saturday afternoon. It would be mostly south of New York City. But I think this is something that's definitely worth, and we are going to keep our eyes on this.
Well, in looking at the technical discussion, long-range technical discussion from WPC, they are mentioning the fact that the latest Canadian global models and also the GFS track the surface low well inland, while the European and UK Met runs maintain a more suppressed wave. Thus far, the ensemble means have supported the more suppressed coastal scenario. Current preference, according to WPC, is in line with the European GFS sensible mean solution. That would maintain continuity while awaiting any dramatic shifts in the guidance clustering. The National Hurricane Center is monitoring this system for potential subtropical development, but regardless of characteristics, this surface low does, they say, have the potential to bring a significant rainfall to parts of the southeast and mid-Atlantic coast this coming weekend. They don't say anything about anything further north, like into the northeast, but, it's still 5-6 days out. They are aware of it. And I guess what they're doing is they're just waiting until all the other models get their ducks in a row, so to speak. No pun intended with the mentioning of ducks, because this could be a situation where the Ducks would really enjoy a significant rainfall. But it's something to watch for later in the week and into the upcoming weekend, and we'll certainly be on top of it here at Joe and Joe.
Well, since you brought up Mrs. Ann Sambles, I
Yes.
might as well. We could take the 18Z GFS Ann Sambles and see what she says. So let's take a look. I'll bring up the surface, see what it's doing. And so here we go. This is Thursday. Now we go into Friday. Well, it's got Joe. It's got a bunch. Look, it does have a bunch of lows there. A lot of members there off the South and North Carolina coast by early Saturday morning, and then then they get a little more scattered. But there's a fair amount that just track up right along the coast or just offshore the coast during the day on Saturday into Saturday night. So I don't know if that's this ensemble run. I don't know how different it was from the last one. I might as well take a look. So we'll go to the 12Z. Yeah, the 12Z.
A pretty good inverted trough, which always means trouble.
Yes. No question on that. Definitely the pretty solid inverted trough that's going to be part of all this. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. No, you can talk now. uh,
There's not. What am I going to say?
I'll tell you, the 12Z ensembles. Right, I have the 12Z ensembles. What time was that discussion written?
1:28 p.m. this afternoon. I don't know why I don't know why they used to have their discussions like let's say 5, 6 in the afternoon or whatever. But now they seem to do only 2 discussions. One at like around 2 in the morning, and one again about 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much of the 12Z run they actually have time to look at when they put their forecast together. But the other thing is, if we go back to what they did on the rainfall forecast that they put out at 22:02, which was at 2 minutes after 6 o'clock tonight, for a system that they're talking about being suppressed, they got an awful lot of rain pushed all the way up into southern New England.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean,
in fact, Dennis Cassia about 5 minutes ago on the chat board said he's getting loud thunder. So
there you go. So there was some convection in the mix.
Yeah.
By the way, I neglected to mention sizable rainfall amounts for the Mississippi and the Missouri River Valley, also for the northern plains of up to several inches this coming week. So fairly wet across the northern plains and even back through the northern Rockies. I want to just look at the GFS again with what's going on in the Northwest. Because I did notice there was a little patches of blue in some of the earlier runs, but I didn't pay close enough attention today. So we might as well correct that horrible error of mine of not looking close enough. But here we go. So let's see what it's got. So I'll just roll back. Come on. There we go. Oh, there it is. It pops up. There's a little bit of blue there in southwestern Canada. There's a little bit of blue in northeastern Idaho on Thursday morning. And then there's not much of anything after that. Oh, there it is. Up in the northwestern corner of Wyoming, there's some darker blue there for one forecast period. So cheap thrills for some of the mountain folk up in the northwestern part of some isolated spots in the northwestern part of the U.S.
It's too early, Joe.
I know it is, isn't it? It is.
I don't even want to think about people. There are people on this chat board who wish we would get snow tomorrow, but it's a little too early for me.
Yeah, the thing is that the time element just goes by so quickly. Just so quickly. By the way, Johnny Quest's messaged me. He said he had upper 20s. Now he's up at 3,500 feet, up in the mountains of northwestern Virginia. So he's pretty high up there. He just wants to let me know they had upper 20s Friday and Saturday morning. The Cannon Valley had 22 degrees Friday morning and 24 Saturday morning. That's a little too much for me. I remember last October, it was around the middle part of October. Well, it wasn't even quite the middle. I think it was around October 10th or October 11th last year. I got down to 17 here. I mean, that was just insane. I forgot the setup, but it was one of those chilly air masses that came down early into the eastern part of the United States in the month of October, and it gets cold up here. I mean, it does get cold up here, up in the mountains of North Georgia. We're at 97 likes, so if we could just get 3 more, that would be great. And while we're waiting for those 3 likes, Joe, you know what time it is?
Is it Briller Jeopardy time?
Yes, it's also 8:18 WCBS News Time. Yes, Briller Jeopardy time. I think I have one.
And by the way, 100. Now it's 101. So.
Oh no, I don't have one. So maybe you have one? Do you have one?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So Scott may have taken a little time off here. So okay, that's fine. All right. So he'll probably send either you or me the next one. I'm sure he's busy taking care of his mom, and as always, we send our best wishes to Scott Briller and to Mother Briller, because she's a big fan of this show, Joe. Huge fan.
Okay, well, and tomorrow we'll have another show, and we'll be one day closer to this potential headache for the weekend.
All right, the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. Use the referral link pinned to the top of the chat board or on the descriptor to this video. And the coupon code. Don't forget the all-important coupon code, folks, because it's I want a weather station. No spaces, just one phrase. I want a weather station. And if you use that, especially if you use it in the next week or so, what'll they get, Joe?
They're going to get $40 off.
That's correct.
$40. Wow.
Yes, $40. And Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. At 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. Remember, they're your go-to place for mulch, topsoil, sand, salt this coming winter as Long Island's largest rock salt source. And of course, if you've got things to fix, just in case there's a tropical storm or subtropical storm that we have to deal with later this week or into this week, well, late this week or this weekend, head over to Omni, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. And I just got a message from the chairman saying that, yes, I do have a Briller Jeopardy. Apparently, I didn't see it, or I didn't look hard enough, or whatever. But since we've already gone through all of the machinations of signing off and coming close to that, we'll hold off on that until tomorrow night. I also want to thank, Joe and I want to thank Chris Sparaccio, Leon Probitsky, Helen Bertona, Bogies Bees, Brandon Doherty, and David Fuller, who hit the tip jar twice. The second time around, he had an apology. He said, "I'm sorry I got you all upset, Joe." David, don't worry about it. Don't worry.
We love you, David. We love everybody.
Yes.
Well, almost everybody. All right, folks. 112 likes. Thank you for taking us over 100. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:35. Nighty-night.
Nighty-night.